Hi everyone, we are Group 2. Our topic today is feminism in Disney cartoon. Today we pick some of the most iconic princesses to analyze their relation with different waves of feminism. In the end, we have QA section. So, first of all, let me introduce myself. Hi everyone, I'm Bonnie. Before I get right into the topic, let me quickly recap some key points of first wave feminism. First wave of feminism generally refers to the 19th and early 20th century in the Western world. This phase revolved largely around gaining basic rights for women, mainly women's voting rights. And feminists of this time tried to construct women's subjectivity by first reckoning that women have been subordinated to men, thus having no separate history of their own. Some of the key concepts include first, sex is biologically determined while gender is socially constructed. Many first wave feminists carefully distinguish difference between sex and gender. They see these two categories as mutually exclusive. Being constructs of social norms, women are inevitably limited within patriarchy. For example, Virginia Woolf proposes that women's literary ambitions are unhindered by females' material disadvantages in comparison to men. And another example is Simone de Beauvoir's famous quote, which is, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman. Being a woman is not a natural fact it's not a natural fact, but a result of the society, the result of history, and biological differences play no role in subsequent behaviors of women. Therefore, she thinks that women should break out of the objectification by defining themselves in natural solidarity." And next, I will introduce three classic Disney princesses. They are Snow White, Cinderella, and Sleeping Beauty. They all are depicted as calm, obedient, and introverted characters, and they all end up marrying the prince, which is why people call these movies a celebration of male savior. First of all, Snow White came in 1937. Her appearance turns out to be very childlike. She's chubby cheeked and flat chested. She has plump face and widened hips. These are all indications that she's still in puberty. And some other indications of the movie include, first of all, Meryl. Meryl can be seen as a male judgment of beauty, and stepmother's sexual maturity versus the Snow White's innocent looking appearance creates strong contrast between them two. And the last prince is a representation of the ultimate romance. The first the first picture shows that when she escaped from the castle and stumbled upon the seven dwarfs' home, she offered to do the housebreak for them in order to stay there, not to be found by her stepmother. And it represents that she's a compliant woman content with houseworks. And in the end, it shapes a sense of reward, showing that an obedient woman that happily commits to standard duties within the household is met with the ultimate happiness, ultimate true love, which is offered by men. And the next, in 1950s, here came Cinderella. Her appearance became more mature than Snow White. She has blonde hair and soft features. Her physicality is unthreatening. And her beauty and grace is highlighted by her ugly and cartoonish stepsisters. Many people think Cinderella is just another stereotypical Disney princess who cleans the house and withstands relentless cruelty from her stepmother and sisters, and finally marry a, a Mr. Right. However, it's not fair enough to say this because we have to consider she is the fact that she's mistreated by her close families, not by some other evil witches. And she simply survived it, and the suffering, more importantly, the suffering she went through didn't turn her into a cold and hard character. She uses kindness as a protection to survive in this cruel world. However, she also demonstrated an act. a sense of courage when the prince came by the house. She decided herself to try the shoe on, no matter how her families would think of her. And yeah, in the end, another cliche ending, but this time we can say that she earned herself this reward because of her courage. And the last classic Disney princess is Aurora, the Sleeping Beauty. She's a little hopelessly romantic, and that distinguishes her from the previous two. She's also one of the most underrated Disney princess because she slept most of the time in the movie, with only 18 lines in total. However, she is ultimately meant to be a character with a doomed fate that the other characters work to save her, even when it seems impossible that only because they love her. So we can say that her superpower is her beauty and charm. And although she has a little personality shown here in the movie, but it is interesting to see that Disney input the first awakening of love this message in the plot. And yeah, that's all for my part. And let's welcome Ellie for second wave feminism.
Hello everyone, I'm Ellie, and I'm going to introduce the princess during the second wave feminism. And first, I will briefly talk about the second wave feminism. Second wave feminism began in the 1960s, and it emphasized the shift to the of reproduction, to women's experience, to sexual difference and sexualities. And it focused on critiquing the patriarchal or male-dominated institutions and cultural practice throughout society. And they want to find females' characteristics and encourage women to build their subjectivities. And there are two Disney princes during the second wave feminism. One is Ariel from The Little Mermaid, and the other is Belle from The Beauty and the Beast. And I will mainly discuss Belle because she's more feminist. And I believe that everyone knows the story of Beauty and the Beast. The outline of the story is Belle went to the castle to save her father, who is being captured by the Beast. And at the same time, she found that the Beast is not as horrible as he looks. Deep in his mind, Beast is a warm and gentle man. So you can see that um, Belle Belle is the first one who saved the prince in the Disney movies. And the screenwriter intended to mold her into an independent, intelligent, and brave character. So you can see that in the old Disney movie, princess used to be a dependent and passive young woman, but now Belle is a brave heroine. And the practice of feminism. Belle is a girl who loves reading. It is the enlightenment of knowledge. Because on the last page, you can see that enlightenment feminism, which means that Belle used her knowledge to make her life different. And from being saved to save the prince, so she becomes a heroine. And she refused the affection from Gaston and chose to marry the beast. Because in the story, there are a character named Gaston, who is a hunter, and he also has an affection toward Belle. But Belle still chooses the beast instead of him. So it means that inner beauty is more important than the outer qualities.
For the next part, I'm going to talk about the early third wave feminism and the practice of third wave feminism from one of the Disney films. And here is the brief introduction of third wave feminism. It begins in 1990s, and the reason why the movement is developed is that third wavers criticize second wavers for elitism and marginalization of non-white women. Thus, they pursue the diversity of women, such as class, ethnicity, religion, etc. And besides that, another feature of third wave feminism is there is a lot of new currents during third wave feminism, and such currents are mostly a combination of feminism and other theories. Take postmodern feminism for example. It's the mix of postmodern and feminism, and ecofeminism is the mix of eco-criticism and feminism. However, people also criticize third wave feminism for lack of cohesion, which prevents the movements from growing. Because there is no main discourse of third wave feminism, it is really hard for third wavers to express their ideas to other groups of people. And so for the next part, I'm going to talk about the film Pocahontas and analyze the ecofeminism in this film. So Pocahontas is the daughter of Native American chief, and she is also the president princess as a model ecofeminist, which is also the main reason why we want to discuss this princess. And so we frequently talk about ecofeminism. And what is this anyway? Ecofeminism, just like what I just mentioned before, is a combination of eco-criticism and feminism. And their main purpose is to explore the connection between women and nature. So in this film, we can see that there is a parallel oppression upon both nature and women from patriarchy. And the first is the domination of nature from patriarchy. In this film, we can see that the British soldier tries to invade America and take the land. So Pocahontas tries to protect her land through communication and fight against such domination. Another domination is the oppression upon women. Because Pocahontas' father tries to persuade Pocahontas into marry a guy who she doesn't really like, she refuses the marriage and makes her own choice. And she chose to stay in America and work with her people. This is why Pocahontas is the president princess of ecofeminism, because she fight against both the domination of nature and domination of women. So for the next part, Eric is going to talk about another practice from third wave feminism.
Hi everyone, I'm Eric, and I'm going to talk about the third wave feminism and the relationship and the relation with uh, two movies. One is Frozen and the other is Brave. So, in the third wave feminism, the marriage bondage of women has been broken and they have become independent and autonomous. The modern public believes that marriage is not a priority for women, and they can also make their own decisions and have the financial independence to pursue their dreams and enjoy their lives. It is also a message that women should accept their identity, be proud of being women, and show their true self. It doesn't just go beyond the stereotypes of Disney princess films, it deliberately plays with them, misleading the audience into making the revelations later on more dramatic. Anna falls in love with Hans at first sight and then decides to pledge her life to each other. Because it's a Disney movie, the audience is easily persuaded that they are sincere, crazy for love. Is one of the hallmarks of the Princess series, reinforcing the impression of love at all costs. So when Hans gets down on his knees and proposes to Anna not long after their first meeting, it's almost impossible to imagine that this is a planned plot. The hero becomes the villain, and the love is no longer the main focus, or even optional. Queen Elsa's accession to the throne demonstrates that in the fictional country of Elendil, succession to the throne is fair and not limited by gender. There is also universal approval of succession to the throne, and the trivial restrictions of being a woman to inherit the throne do not exist here. From Disney princess to queens, the goal of the story is not to marry a prince, but to be independent and free image of princess. The feminist dimension is also evident in the fact that after Elsa has fled, her sister comes to her rescue at a critical moment. As a woman, she no longer needs to be rescued by her prince, but is determined to stop Hans from persecuting her sister and sacrifice herself for her. And in the Disney movie Brave, The main theme of the play is the misunderstanding and understanding and growth of the young princess, Merida, and her mother, without the element of love. There is such conversation in this film. The lords are presenting their sons as suitors for your betrothal. I don't know why you are acting this way. And Merida answered, it's what you have been preparing for your whole life. So it is a story of conflict between mother and daughter. The main theme of the play the understand is to understand each other. And women's clothing also implies a social strategy. The more feminine the dress, the more restrictive it is, making it impossible for women to run or jump. This is what makes a princess so and graceful. Marita has fluffy orange curls, and her messy fiery red hair directly reflects her untamed personality, showing the princess' sense of freedom and sensitive. Sense of freedom and sensitive.
Now, here comes the Q&A section, and Jennifer will ask us some questions.
Okay, so here is our first question. Disney's movie often involve in ethnic diversity issue and feminism issue. However, it sometimes also distraction of the main story. Do you think if Disney should focus on one issue or not?
In recent years, Disney has adapted animations into a real-person movie. For example, the movie Little Mermaid, and Disney chose African American as the main character instead of white person. It has raised a heated debate on the social media because lots of people think it's a way to show political correctness. Disney should adapt it in the original set. From my perspective, the way that Disney chose the African American has emphasized the difference between ethnics. If they adapt the princess and the frogs into a real movie and they chose African American as the main character, then it's acceptable because in the animation it's the original state. But in the Little Mermaid, Ariel is a white girl with red hair, but Disney chose African American. It's obviously for the political correctness.
Okay, so what you're saying is that Disney should be faithful to the original work. And so I also agree with you because I think if Disney wants to discuss both issue, it will be distraction. So the better way is to focus on either feminism issue or diversity issue. It will be a better way. So the following is our second question.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. And now here comes the second question is, we would like to ask you guys if you think these princesses, they are merely products of patriarchal society from the women's empowerment perspective. So women's empowerment, it means that it can be defined to promoting women's sense of self-worth, their ability to determine their own choices and their right to influence social change for themselves and others. Do you think these princesses at different times demonstrate women empowerment and how? So we will be answering these questions in the perspective according to the princesses we presented in the previous part. So first of all, I'm gonna defend or Cinderella. Most there are critics of many there are critics from other people saying that she's very passive and introverted. However, we should consider her situation because she actually makes the most of her misfortunes by remaining constantly at a distance. She is tortured not by a evil witch, but by her close family. It's definitely not easy for her or for anyone to simply revolt against the abuser when they are your only disclosure. Um, Also, it is really hard to remain truly sincerely nice to those people who treat you poorly. From my perspective, I think she did pretty well, even though her strength doesn't come outwardly, but she internalized her kindness and forgiveness as a strength to carry herself on. So, in my opinion, I think she can be considered, she demonstrates certain degree of women empowerment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, in the second wave feminism, they encourage women to find their female characteristic and embrace it. Belle has a female characteristic. She's a gentlewoman, but she also saves the beast, which shows her brave. So women don't have to be masculine, but still remain their female characteristics.
Okay, so based on the film I analyzed, which is Hunters, I think after the web feminism, Disney tries to build an image of braver and more masculine families for their princess. Take her for example, she is the woman who protects the tribe and stops the war between British and American India. And I think during this period, Disney wants to express women's subjectivity through a hearing like feminist, and instead of encouraging women to pursue feminine personality.
Okay, so I'll take Anna for example. In the movie Frozen, Anna is a brave and resilient woman. Though she is a princess, she's not a delicate or gentle princess. When her sister loses control, Anna is amazed but not afraid of her sister's powers. After Elsa is forced to flee, she jumps on horseback to pursue Elsa alone and save the frozen country. Uh, Despite the difficulties along the way, she learns to make mistakes and solve problems, gradually evolving to a brave, independent, confident, and strong woman rather than someone need protection. So I think this film definitely represents uh, the women empowerment. That's my answer.
Thank you, Eric. So I'm going to make a brief conclusion for our presentation. We think that um, although some of these princesses they possess not so vibrant personality and sometimes they are even introverted and shy, but however, we think that women are allowed to be assertive and goal-oriented in the same way that they are allowed to be shy and reserved and introverted. So to sum up, we think being a feminist means embracing both masculine and feminine traits as a valid form of, of strength and not shaming on either side. That's our presentation. So,
Bye
bye.
bye.
Have a nice
Bye
summer
bye.
vacation.